Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have a wonderful guest with me, my mom. I've brought her on before on my Instagram to talk in an IGTV about modest fashion and what it means to us, but I figured that we would just sit down for a YouTube talk and answer your Q&A that you guys submitted on Instagram. So just to give you guys an introduction, she's my mom. She gave birth to me about 25 years ago.
From what I remember, I
was told.
I was there.
and that's, yeah, I mean, she raised me.
I think I did that.
How do you introduce your mom? I don't know.
Yeah, so I was there throughout her life until she got married.
You're still in my life.
I'm still in her life. We get to see her maybe once every month, sometimes every 2 months, which is pretty good for...
I see you actually quite a lot compared to most people who move out.
And of course, in this day and age, we have Zoom and FaceTime and so many other ways of communicating. So.
Yeah, especially when I text my mom and she doesn't ever reply to me.
Oh, I do, but you text me like on a Friday where I'm at the mosque. You somehow know what I'm doing and know it's the time that I'm busy.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay, so we're going to get started. So the Q&A was submitted by you guys with questions pertaining to modest fashion industry, wearing hijab, and we especially want to talk about this after all of the news surrounding Halima's decision to leave the modeling industry. Is she leaving the modeling industry, or is she more...
No, I think she just said she's not going to do any more catwalks or... modeling down a runway.
Or working with brands that don't want to respect her hijab publicly. She was feeling that her hijab was being hidden and accessorized and not as much as like a visible display of her faith. Over the time led her to feel this way.
Maybe she didn't feel like her choices were respected on what she wanted to wear and how she wanted to display herself. And this is a complaint from a lot of models, not just her. So
it's models that you know of. I'm kidding.
That I've heard of in the industry.
We pretty much were interested in having this conversation because of, you know, how she came out so publicly and said that she felt that her spirit was being put down by constantly having to deal with the bad energy in the fashion industry. And over time, she felt like she wasn't her authentic self and she wasn't having the same goals that she went in thinking she would. And I think this spoke to a lot of Muslim women because we are going through times where we feel like it's very easy to fall into peer pressure and not think of the bigger picture of why you have these values and who you're doing it for. And that's just something that I think that a lot of women wanted to think about now after she made it so public and had so much support. Although it's pretty sad that she had a lot of backlash too. I mean, it's very sad to think that people would be coming after her for wanting to listen to her mom.
It's because of what her mom told her to do. If her mom had been the one who had pushed her towards the industry, people would stand up for that. But sometimes when a parent says something that goes against mainstream, the mainstream is to be famous, to be popular, to make a lot of money. And those are the things that people hold dear today.
Yeah, as goals.
More than being happy with yourself. And I think every company now wants to have a token hijabi in their group or as a publicity event. And a lot of times they forget that Muslim women who wear the hijab do it for religious reasons, not for a fashion statement or for culture. And some women do it for culture and sometimes fashion. But the majority that I know do it because of religion. And so when they have to compromise and when the industry doesn't respect that it is a religious choice, then it becomes kind of difficult for Muslim women to accommodate.
And I think there will never be a solution. I think it's always going to be this type of balance of pros and cons. Because on one hand, seeing Muslim women in the industry, in the media, makes you feel so much more empowered. You feel like you fit in. You know, growing up, you wouldn't see hijabi women. You would feel like you had to constantly explain yourself in the room you're in. And now you could walk into like a business meeting wearing a hijab and people know that your scarf doesn't take away from your personality, your education, the fact that you can speak English. A lot of things have changed.
Another issue, when I watched her interview with her mom said something profound. So the mother said, the way that her daughter was wearing the hijab with a lot of makeup and accessories and colors and so on kind of categorized certain people as this is what hijab is versus the way the mother wore it, which was very plain and simple, no makeup. And she says, you make people think that everyone that dresses like you is good. And what about the people who dress like us? How does that make us feel? And so even that the display of hijabs in different cultural styles and the way that a woman would wear makeup and different, like I do a lot of lectures on Islam pre-COVID, And they'd always ask me, do you have to wear certain colors? What kind of fabrics do you have to use? So people categorize everything they see into this is the way Muslims should do it versus the people that are doing it this way means they're too extreme or they're too religious or they're not religious enough. And so
it's definitely a spectrum.
It's different than when we weren't recognized at all. We kind of got to decide what people thought of us, but then now that we're recognized, we're put into categories and categories that people don't necessarily understand.
I think what you're trying to get at is it makes you maybe better than the other person if you are more glamorous than if you're not.
Is your husband oppressing you more than hers?
Okay.
You know, something like that in those terms. People don't understand it because some people compare it to being a nun, but there isn't more glamorous nuns than others. It's a decent comparison, but it's not exactly the same.
You know, in Christianity, being a nun, it's something that more religious people choose to do.
So that's kind of how a lot of Muslim women look at it. Not everybody's ready to do it. Not everybody wants to do it. Not everyone can do it. There's people who live in an environment where they would be heavily prosecuted if they wore hijab. We respect everybody's views, but as Muslim women who do wear it, it's not for men. It's basically for our own selves and to be recognized as women of Islam.
That's actually always the response I give when people ask me why do I wear hijab. It's such a complex answer, which you can't always give, but I tell them it's so that people in public know I'm Muslim. A lot of times you might see someone who wears a scarf might be going through a lot of struggles, but at the same time they are, in a way, kind of a walking billboard of their faith. So that's why Muslim women are so scrutinized for wearing it, I think, because with it comes a lot of responsibility. But at the same time, it's such a complex question. I mean, like,
it is.
That at the same time, you can't control every person. The only person you can control is yourself.
I didn't wear it until I was older. I was like the one behind it the most. It was kind of...
I was literally like, what, 4?
No, you were about
6
or 7.
I think that we've been talking so much and we have questions to answer from people, so we'll just get on to answering those questions because it's been quite some time on camera. How do you let your child be themselves while ensuring they maintain their deen?
Well, the most important part of raising a child is to understand that between the ages of 0 and 7 is where most of their personality and their values and morals come in. It's important to, number one, be a good example for them as much as you can without being a hypocrite, but sometimes that's difficult. And if you do make a mistake in front of them, acknowledge it's a mistake and tell them that your parents aren't perfect and that you would wish that they're better than you. You want to show them that you have weaknesses that you strive to improve as well. Second of all, the most important thing that you teach your child is self-control. That having the ability to make good decisions in accordance to what God asks of them is part of their upbringing. I would never let my children choose something detrimental. Most of the decisions they made were like clothing, food choices,
what
healthy
music you want to listen to.
Pick lyrics that have good meaning. For instance, mostly Coldplay has good, decent meaning.
My mom's always plugging in Coldplay.
They are like about politics, about the world. In reality, wisdom only comes from sometimes experiencing it yourself, but some wisdom can come from seeing other people's experiences. So don't shelter your kids too much from other people's experiences. Show them, let them see the ugly side of things because that's what they learn from more than just reading a book or you giving them instructions all the time.
Also, her kids are nowhere near perfect. I mean, like...
No, they're not perfect at all.
You should see my sisters. I'm kidding. I think you also befriended us a lot growing up compared to even how your parents befriended you. And I know you sometimes see the backlash of that when you feel like either us as teenagers we're not as having this mom-daughter relationship, but more of like a friend relationship, especially when we would argue or things like that.
Yeah, I just want them to say, yeah, Mama, you're right. Everything you said is perfect and we're always wrong. And that's not coming true.
I mean, that's, yeah. All right, next question. Someone asked what's your skincare, but I feel like that's not relevant to this video.
I can answer that.
Okay, quickly, what's your skincare?
Skincare. I wash my face every night. That's very important. I grew up with some acne and oily skin, but as you age, that kind of changes along with having children. But generally, I cleanse my skin. I do use glycolic acid at least twice a week. I tried using it more in the winter and it causes a lot of dry skin. And I use a retinol cream twice a week and SPF and a scrub once a week on my skin.
So the next question I have, is it even possible to be in the industry as a modest model without compromising beliefs?
So it just depends on that individual. I think it's possible, but you really have to work your contract pretty, you have to tweak it, I guess.
Very specific about what you do. And I feel like, yeah, it's something that we only heard of until recently too. You know, there was no such thing as a modest model beforehand because model always meant like bikini, Victoria's Secret. Like we didn't really associate model with modest. And now models nowadays, or even supermodels, have become almost role models. Like, you know, Halima, while she was modeling, she also got to work with several NGOs and travel back to a refugee camp, and she became like a public figure besides modeling, and became a representation in panels, speeches. The whole industry itself is so complex with what you're able to do.
And as a model, you can't expect to stay in that industry forever. You will age. You will perhaps change your body shape and style. You won't be able to fill the roles that they want anymore.
For sure.
So you have to move on.
Do you agree with every single outfit Summer wears?
We started with Gymboree. That's how we
worked our way up.
Children's Place and whatever other stores were open at that time. I was so sad
when I stopped fitting there.
Sometimes she puts things together that I probably wouldn't wear. Not because of any modesty issues, but mostly the color selections, the style. But again, her audience is completely different than some of the things that my age group would wear. So every age group has their styles. Sometimes I would say, you know, why'd you put tennis shoes with that?
White tennis shoes.
Nurse tennis shoes.
You also don't like when I wear the super wide jeans.
They're very modest. Tall, and the wide jeans make her look like she has really long legs, and it's just, for me, it's just a strange look, but it looks fine, and if she wants to wear it, that's her choice. I think you've actually become more modest now that you're older. And the styles were different then, too.
Styles were different, like skinny jeans were in. Now they're way more like oversized, classic, 80s is back.
I've had people from other religions gravitate towards it as well. It
definitely.
Wasn't just for Muslims. I've had people that I give lectures to that turned out to follow Summer here in St. Louis, and they said they love the way she dresses, and they sometimes replicate the outfits without a headscarf.
How did your mom react when you told her you wanted to wear hijab?
Oh. Well,
I loved your response. You're like, oh.
No, it was surprising because she was very young. She was probably like 12.
I was 12 and a half, going on 13. Yeah. But mind you, I was a very mature 12-year-old. I looked like I was 15.
No,
like,
you did
look fully grown. I was tall.
She was 12, and I brought her up in my most religious phase of life.
So my mom went through a lot of phases in life.
I was in my 20s, and I was reading a lot, and I would take her to all my lectures. So when she told me she wanted to wear hijab, I was fine with it. It's just that there was a wedding and I had already bought her a dress, and the dress wasn't, you know, hijab friendly.
It was like a tube top dress,
but it had a
scarf that I was gonna wrap into like a bow.
She puts it on, she's gonna look more like an adult woman versus my baby, and that was the whole thing. So
at the wedding we had our hair done, makeup, and I'm like a 12-year-old who wears a ponytail every day. Like, I never even cared about my hair.
She opposed to makeup all the time.
Like, it wasn't anything. I just didn't want to look older than I was, and I was 12, which was actually young. After the wedding though, I was like, damn, I look good. When am I gonna wear hijab tomorrow? So then I actually put it off another day. I was like, I need one more day to like bask in all of this, you know, this glam. And then I wore it like a day after that. I was like, okay, I'm done. Regarding your daughter's career, what are you most afraid of?
Well, I'm afraid that as she ages, if she doesn't accommodate her career, that she'll find herself losing touch with her base. But I think you're smart enough to do that.
Oh,
I think
thank you.
Something that you've already thought through.
Worry about anything in terms of the actual industry changing me?
No, I really don't. I think Summer, if you were going to change, you would have changed by now.
And I think with Corona now, my mom has been seeing me sit at home for like, what, 9 months?
Yeah.
And just doing what I do.
But I think between her and even her husband, they're well grounded enough to not let the industry change them. I think if anything, she's changed the industry.
Wow, that's so cute. There's so many things to balance when you're in the social media industry. Like, you want to balance being authentic, being modest, but also appealing to different generations. And then you want to also get high engagement, and then you want to appeal to brands, but then you also want to appeal to people that love your family content and are more relatable. So there's so many things to appeal to that maybe the audiences don't see.
You have to be afraid of being criticized. Which is normal. If you're in a public position, you're a public figure, not everyone's ever going to agree with what you say or do or wear.
Well, I actually have a question very similar to that. Okay. What do you think of haram police online?
Some of the haram police are posting things that make Islam look so harsh and not so forgiving. You can't put them all in the same basket. They're not all the haram police. Not everyone who says something online means that they've done it offensively.
I think there's a big difference between wanting to give like a really nice reminder or nasiha to somebody because you care about them, and I think that should be made private. If I truly wanted someone to change about themselves, I would send them a private message. I know leaving a comment publicly on their picture is only going to hurt their feelings, and they won't take it seriously, even if the message was nice, because then you could think about it and not have the public eye also being like, oh, we should scrutinize her for this.
The fact that people sometimes make public a lot of things that they do, like underage drinkers, for instance, they make public they're doing it and they're driving or whatever. That's gonna harm a lot of other people by going out and maybe wanting to mimic that.
To do that.
Even misrepresenting their own religion and so on, that can harm people down the road. So if you publicly call them out in a respectful way, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're just doing it to humiliate them or to make them feel ugly or stupid, then that's a whole nother thing.
So this one is actually for me. Was there any weak moment when you thought about removing your hijab in the fashion industry?
That's for you?
It's for me, because you're not in the fashion industry. My mom is in the everything else industry. My mom literally does everything. Removing my hijab was never a thought that's crossed my mind, so I'm very thankful for that, alhamdulillah. But this also does make me a little bit unaware of the struggles that like sisters are going through, and you know, we always have to remind ourselves to not judge everybody because you don't know what they're going through. Very thankful to have good role models in my life. All right, so let's get you one last juicy question. How to stay strong and confident while all your friends and cousins don't wear hijab? I think the difference is not if they wear hijab or not. It's if they respect your choice to.
People are negative and treating you in a way that's disrespectful or making you feel bad about yourself, you just have less and less activities with them.
Yeah,
I mean,
you really
can't put yourself in a toxic environment all the time and expect yourself to leave that environment healthy and whole.
And it's actually sad that a lot of the idea of Muslim women being oppressed comes from other Muslim women on each other.
If you're making a good decision in your life that other people can't
trying to bring you down, or
I mean,
they don't need to be in your life as much. So anyway, I think that we should wrap this video. Is there any end note you want to leave off with about everything we talked about?
I think with a lot that's going on in social media, women taking off hijabs, women putting on hijabs, women leaving the industry, women...
It's so public.
It's very public, and it's like when you share all this information, you only share tidbits of what's going on in your life.
Yeah, they don't know what's behind the scenes, what's in your heart.
Without having been in that person's life all the time, you don't know the whole story. So we're left with just an image of what we think may be going on in that person's life. And I think it's
so easy to be judgmental.
That's very dangerous, actually, because people start to base their lives on what they see from these people's lives, whether it's good or bad or left or right. And you can't base your life off of someone that you know very little about. Making a post a day and telling you a couple of comments at the bottom is not meaning that you know them very well. No one can claim to know Summer very well unless they're married to her or gave birth to her or live with her for quite a bit of time. I must say, what she posts is a lot like how she is, but sometimes those pictures don't reflect the true nature of Summer, because that's just an image that you see. The same with actresses, the same with politicians.
The entire world has changed from being how they were in the 80s to now. The standard is just different, I think, for beauty, for fashion.
For beauty even,
Yeah, beauty for sure. And another thing too is that we're only talking about modest fashion seen online. There are so many people in the world who don't use social media. And then there's the world that you see online that might be like a 0.01% of everyone that actually exists, of reality. Like,
and it's selling a lot of products, I'll be honest with you.
Well, Muslim women do buy a lot of things.
Hijab pins, different hijabs. I myself probably own a couple hundred hijabs.
I think overall what we wanted to say is that there's so many pros and cons in the industry. And I think that, let's say if you're not in this industry, someone is going to be there to fill that void. So you might as well be there and trying to make a positive difference rather than just being an outlooker. If they're not following a modest influencer, they're going to be following the next Kardashian or thinking that's the standard of beauty, that's what we should be wearing. And obviously I think with everything should be disclaimers. I think we should always be letting people know that we're not perfect, and to really seek your own faith and spirituality on your own and not seek it from people online, because like my mom said earlier, you don't know everyone's full story.
These types of Instagram posts from role models are really for a lot of girls who don't have anyone in their family who is a role model for modest fashion. If you already have a mom or a sister or a cousin or someone who you look up to, that's great. But for some people, they have no one. Sometimes they're very isolated, they're alone, they live alone. They have families who are very much against the religious upbringing or any kind of religion.
So the world has become much more connected, and I think that we should utilize that to its positives. Anyway guys, thank you for watching this super long video. We recorded for such a long time. I think we'll be able to edit it out. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoy having my mom on here. Let me know if you guys want to have her again on my YouTube. Anyway, bye guys.